address as the leader of India's space mission body.
It's a special, I would say, privilege for me to welcome the minister and of course other dignitaries on the dais. ISRO is now full. We were founded in 2020, launched in 2011. 11th of October 2021 was the launch of ISRO at the hands of Honorable Prime Minister. Call it the ultimate frontier world. We all can talk of our territorial boundaries up to whatever, the demarcation between the aviation and the space. But beyond that 50-kilometer radius around the Earth, it is of everybody. And this kind of a domain, when we all in a united kind of a way, in line with what of space. The first of the experiments in space in India began that was the British India, and from that point on, it remained on a very low-key basis. But then, after some of the initiatives by the government, was founding of Indian Space Research Organization in 1968, and from 68 we have seen amazing things have been done by ISRO. Today, obviously, when we talk of the contribution of ISRO, now recently, this is something which has been formally mapped through a consultancy study, and Dr. Somnath will tell us more about it, but the factor is well in excess of, for every rupee spent, in excess of 2.5 rupees getting back into the economy in the form of creation of opportunity. This period did. Today, if we look at, because of the downstream industries and the varieties of things that have happened, which have been initiated by ISRO and making us Atmanirbhar in this segment, there are 4.7 million indirect jobs, 96,000 direct jobs in ISRO as well as in the industrial ecosystem that feeds into ISRO. And of course, when we talk of that, there's, as I said, $60 billion, which actually have come in over a decade in terms of contribution to the Indian economy. Now, standing on this kind of a very strong foundation, which is economically extremely robust, and the money that physically gets spent from the government into a defense, in the space budget is just about $1.7 billion. So one can look at the multiple which actually it has been creating, direct as well as indirect, and this indirect multiple is what one is really talking about, because the downstream industry, the more and more it sort of builds up, this is where the largest number of, call it the job opportunities, the largest number of technological advancements is what one can look forward to. More than 250 startups. We see amazing things happening in the space, and of course, ISRO happens to be one of those kind of organizations, very selflessly allowing and enabling each of these startups and the organization. The organization that obviously was created to facilitate and of course regulate was in space, and it's an amazing example. There is no other government department which actually promotes, and the promotion role which in space, within the space kind of a ecosystem, as a concept that has been created is unprecedented, and that is essentially where we see this startup make it today. And of course, Dr. Somnath, who we more or less take it for granted that if it is a space event, Dr. Somnath never says no. And it's an enormous partnership between the industry and the ISRO, which Dr. Somnath personifies, and it's always a kind of a moment to welcome him at ISPA, and of course, we'll hear all of them today.
Our Honorable Minister for Space, Dr. Jitendra Singh ji, Sri Jayant Patil, Chairman ISPA, Ambassador Mr. Howard Orphan, Ambassador of the European Union to India, Lieutenant General A.K. Bhatt, all the distinguished invitees, participants for this India Space Conclave 2024 organized by ISRO and others. I'm really honored to be here to speak on this occasion. I think the morning panel has already set in the agenda for this conclave. The Vision 2047, as already announced by our Honorable Prime Minister, that for the very first time in the history of our space program, that we have a long-term program of space as a vision statement, that we are going to have such and such goals achieved in such a long period of time. It's very, very first time. And just not announcement. I think all of you would have already seen that after the announcement, due process has been done to take those announcements into fruition. I think the government was very focused to see this time that in certain number of days, those announcements are converted to projects and programs, and the whole projects are set into motion. I think this is something phenomenal to happen in India under the guidance of our minister as well as our Honorable Prime Minister. As already been told in the morning, that we have a vision to create a space program that is very futuristic, inspirational, and with a specific goal to accomplish in terms of expanding our space economy. So there are many elements of this vision which is embedded into it. If you really want to look at the genesis of our space program, all of you know that it started with a goal of using space technology for the benefit of common people. I think we have done reasonably well in terms of that part of it, creating a space program which is sustainable, moderate in its scale, but with a technology capability which is end-to-end in terms of the launch capabilities, spacecraft building capability, and all those elements that goes into it. Finally, in terms of delivery of the outcome of the space program into programs and projects. But if you really look at it, it has remained at certain level of activity in the last so many years, and the type of infrastructure that we developed were of moderate nature in terms of industrial engagement, in terms of the scale, and in terms of the money. I think they were remaining almost steady. If you look at even our budget, it was so. But then it is now understood, the world is changing very, very fast in this domain. The space is becoming a very important element in the overall equations, not just for economy, but for many other aspects as well. So it's very important for us to scale up it. And the scaling up will happen only when we bring in new actors and new players into it. And this is well understood. We have been very well engaged with industries in the past. If you really look at when we started the program, there were no space industries. To say there was no high technology industries itself in India, but for infrastructure projects, there were great industries. But to build space systems, we had to work with industries for tens of years to create that capability in industry. That's the first thing that ISRO did over the past. And even to create basic products, look at materials, manufacturing capability, the specific elements that goes into the space grade items. We have been struggling really over the last so many years to create that capability. Today we have almost 450 plus industries supporting us, building small items to big items, having an ability to build almost 90+% of the rockets in India, and maybe 50 to 60% of the spacecraft's components and items in India. So this is something really great, and today we have an ability to even engineer complex systems with the knowledge and skill that is available here, and then launch it from this nation of missions that we want to achieve.
Shri Jayant Patil, Dr. Jitendra Singh Ji, Shri Dr. Somanath, dear representative of the India space sector, dear delegates, ladies and gentlemen, namaskar. I am most pleased and honored, I should say I'm over the moon, to have been invited to address the plenary session of this year's India Space Conclave. Last August, I had the opportunity to take part in the conference titled Creating a Space Ecosystem, a New Era, Igniting Young Minds for Space Exploration, which had been organized by the All India Council for Technical Education in partnership with ISRO. And I was on the occasion of India National Space Day. So it feels nice, and it feels like doubling down on a frontline topic of tremendous importance for both India and the European Union. From the outset, I would like to commend the impressive achievements of India in the outer space domain, whether it is in space exploration with the successful Chandrayaan-3 lunar mission or in the space economy. The EU recognizes India as a truly cost-effective, dynamic space power of the first order. Spaceflight missions like Gaganyaan or Chandrayaan-4 lunar missions will further establish India's ambition, together with aspiration to contribute to the growing space economy. By 2035, I understand you aim at 44 billion worth of economy. So, and there is more, as highlighted by Dr. Somanat in his address. So really, congratulations for all these achievements is what is to come. In my address today, I would like to cover two main topics: the EU policy approach to a fast-changing space domain and the perspective for EU-India space cooperation. Our policy approach is informed by the recognition of the different dimensions and dynamics of the space domain. These are mostly space exploration, that includes deep space exploration, research and experimentation in space with new discoveries and new technologies that will be of benefit to mankind's future. And the EU wants to take a full active part in this. The other dimension is space commercialization. A recent report from the World Economic Forum has projected that the space economy will skyrocket from a current $630 billion in 2023 to $1.8 trillion by 2035. Space industry achievements like satellite manufacturing, launch capabilities, plays a pivotal role in the digital economy, digital communication, transport, supply chain activities. But also soon, we will see it, maybe space tourism. The commercialization of space could also include potentially exploitation of space minerals, which will require to address significant feasibility and legal questions. The third dimension is space securitization. This concerns both security and safety from space, with activities such as Earth observation, climate monitoring functions, but also security and safety in space, and space governance. As space activities and strategic implication of space grow, the risk of confrontation is growing, underscoring the urgency for guardrails to prevent the future scenarios of Star Wars. As a result of these dynamics, the space is becoming fast a competitive, congested, contested space. And it witnessed to overlapping dynamics of cooperation, competition, and confrontation. So what does the EU do? Let me highlight the space policies and programs of the EU. The EU and its member states, several of them being present today in the audience, and I want to acknowledge that EU is first and foremost a Team Europe effort with its member states. We have long recognized space as a critical domain of economic competitiveness, scientific sovereignty, and strategic autonomy. We have sought to develop an ecosystem of programs and organizations that foster its ambitions. While the European Space Agency, or Ariane, or Galileo navigation systems are well known, the European Space Programme implements space activities in many fields, such as Earth observation, satellite navigation, connectivity, space research and innovation, and many more. Just let me highlight a few. Our research and innovation program, Horizon Europe, have a joint cluster digital industry and space with a proposed envelope of 13.5 billion euro, that is about 12,500 crores, to promote space-related research. The Commission has also embraced a public-private partnership to deploy programs with specific objectives and roles. For instance, to help companies to break into the space business, European Commission launched its program called Cassini to support entrepreneurs, startups, and SMEs in the space industry. This initiative covers both upstream, like nanosats, launchers, but also downstream, like product and services enabled by space data. So we have 1 billion EU seed money and growth funds, which has already delivered for 600 new space companies, with many startups benefiting from it.
Downstream applications hold the success to our space sectors, right? So we have been speaking, about this for years. I think this next 5 years, let us dedicate to downstream applications. That really is the area where the value is being created. So today, it's my honor and pleasure to introduce our applications called SPADE. It's a platform. It's believed to, send the power to the users, where multi-sensors data is available through one single platform, and it's towards Government of India's strategies and decadal visions for making sectoral applications running for the country and going beyond. With this, I'd like to invite Honorable Minister Dr. Jitendra Singh to inaugurate the applications, and with this.
Dexterra Technologies.
In a world filled with challenges, both natural and man-made, the ability to see clearly is crucial. Imagine having a tool that lets you access, visualize, and comprehend remotely sensed data in near real time. The need for timely and accurate information has always been critical. Introducing SPADE, your gateway to a universe of satellite data and analysis. With SPADE, you can access high-resolution, multi-sensor satellite data anytime, anywhere, putting unparalleled power at your fingertips. SPADE revolutionizes satellite tasking, data access, and analysis, harnessing the capabilities of multiple satellite constellations having 250 plus sensors. Whether you need to task satellite or browse through an extensive archive, SPADE offers flexibility to meet your needs effortlessly, delivering millions of square kilometers of data every day. From monitoring and assessing specific areas to providing you a simple image for your research, SPADE empowers you with the insights you need.
And addressing critical challenges. May I have the honor to request Dr. Singh to kindly felicitate our achievers. May I request Professor Manasuri to kindly accept the award. Manasuri, the CEO, of Conclave, and request Singh Kumar to kindly accept the award. Our next winner, Pixel. The T-Sat-1 is satellite developed by Total Advanced System Limited. The next category, electronic systems and modules contributing to missions for success in IT user service. May I request Thank you. Next award category, platform for public unlock potential for offering solutions creating research, connectivity products, and integrated security services. Congratulations. Congratulations, you said about that. The next category. The next award category is international collaboration and congratulations, Dr. Rafi. Our next award goes to Galaxy's multi-sensor satellite imaging technology, which integrates optical and radar data into the revolution of Earth observation.
Ambassador Delphin from the European Union, Mr. Jayant Patil, Chairman, Indian Space Association, Lieutenant General Bhatt, all the members and the stakeholders in the space sector, young startups, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I have to congratulate Mr. Jayant Patil and the organizers, I think, for having made a very regular feature out of this, holding this annual conclave, which is in fact emerging as a very useful platform for the exchange of ideas, also exchange of best practices, and also knowledge sharing. And I'm glad that I was here even last year, and I'm able to make it this year itself. And having said that, and just taking forward from what was being said by the ambassador and earlier by Somanathji, I think if you look back in the last 3-4 years, and then of course in the context of what has happened since independence, it's been a brief but a very eventful journey as far as the space sector is concerned. And I think the best way to actually appreciate that is that the Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, which is headed by Mr. Somanath, was actually established in the year 1969, which has gone down in the history as the year when the first human being landed on the surface of the moon, Neil Armstrong. And we were just getting born. But today, we have the courage and the pride to say that we are the first to have reached the southern pole of the moon. So I think that itself is an indication of the huge quantum jump that has happened. But more important than that is to understand how was this made possible. And I have no hesitation to say, and to add to what the chairman was just now saying, the credit goes to Prime Minister Narendra Modi for having what the media popularly describes as unlocking of India's space. I know for how many decades we were functioning behind a veil of secrecy for reasons better known to the dispensations there. We never had a dearth of talent, we never had a dearth of potential. You can see those archived pictures of Vikram Sarabhai carrying some of the equipments on the carriage of his bicycle. So that was the kind of commitment, the kind of dedication. But perhaps possibly what was lacking was a kind of enabling milieu which is expected from the policy makers of the country, from the ruling dispensation, from the political dispensation, and that happened after Prime Minister Modi came in, and I think that's what has made the difference. And when we put it across to him that we had to move forward from where we were, he did what was almost unimaginable, because most of us in India had got conditioned to accept that this was going to be the norm. You couldn't even peep inside the gates of Sriharikota. If you did that, there would be a police report lodged against you. But Prime Minister Modi, as he is known to have the courage and the courage of conviction to take out-of-box decisions, he allowed us to open it to the private participation, and the miracle that has happened just in 3 or 4 years was demonstrated before you in the form of these award winners. So this event of award distribution, of felicitation of these young entrepreneurs and young startups would not have been possible if the space sector had continued to function in the manner it was made to continue for 6-7 decades. And today, while I said there's a quantum jump, we were just about 1-digit startup in the space sector till about 3 or 4 years back. We're now over 300. And today, the chairman has the courage to commit before this learned audience that we'll multiply our economy 5 times. So that confidence, that esteem has come from the policy change, the paradigm shift that has happened in our approach towards the space sector. So we are 2%, could be 10% as he said, just about 80 billion. We could be going up 8 billion going up 5 times more, etc. And therefore contributing not only to the overall economy of the world per se, but also to the future growth of India's economy. And when I say so, the importance of that lies in the fact that today we relish the target, the dream of Viksit Bharat 2047. You've heard Prime Minister reiterating that so many times, all of us looking forward to that goal. But have we asked ourselves how is the value addition going to come from? So when most of the other sectors have either got saturated or contributed enough, those of the sectors which remain either unexplored or underexplored would come to add the value to carry India. It came from fragile 5 to top 5, then to 4 and 3, and then to number 1. So this is one sector which was underexplored, and now it's started receiving the kind of attention that it deserves. Of course, the other sectors also, like the marine sector, I'm glad that I'm associated with that industry also. The first time we are going to explore in the form of deep sea mission. And most importantly, I think it's also important for us because ultimately if the ultimate aim of science is to bring ease of living in the life of a common man, and the often asked question in some of the cynical quarters is, what do you achieve by sending rockets up the space? But I want to just reiterate, because that often slips our notice, is that I think India has created a role model of using space sector in virtually every sector of development, every infrastructure development, which I think no other country in the world has done. I think, and that too also happened after this government came in 2014, I think it was 2015 or 16, we had a brainstorming for about 3 days where 15, where the space experts and space scientists were made to sit with the representatives from each of the ministry, each of the sector, to make them realize where we could step in, because many of them didn't know that we could be of utility. And the outcome of that is that today space sector is contributing hugely to smart city program, to the building of highways. We have 40% increase in the construction of highways ever since Prime Minister Modi came, and this has happened because we have used these technologies. It's being used in most of our flagship programs, the Jal Shakti program, the agriculture programs, the Swamitva program where you do the mapping of the farms and the land with combining space technology with drones. Telemedicine, of course, I don't have to say that. So virtually every sector in India is using space technology today. That has not only given esteem to space technology, but has also produced before the world a model of how space sector could be used much beyond just sending up the rockets. That's just one component of it. And the budget is very small, actually, of our Chandrayaan and most of the other missions. Whereas the enormous revenue that is being generated by utilizing space technology in the other sectors is much more. The saving done, the time limits reduced. So if you are spending A amount in launching a rocket, you are saving twice that by using space technology, or thrice that, or manyfold that by using it optimally in the other sectors. And therefore, I think the credit also goes to some of the brilliant brains sitting over here. The space sector, the deliberate collaboration, the private sector and the public sector is in fact a success story for India, which could be emulated. I'm glad, as being said by Mr. Jitendra, could be emulated by other sectors as well. Because the era of working in silos is over, so if you have to move forward, you have to move in integrated fashion. And the manner they have done it meticulously, I think is a case study in itself. They decided to open the gates of Sriharikota, then they set up an interface called InSpace, then they set up a PSU called New Space India Limited, then they engaged a group of persons who already had the experience both of the industry as well as the the scientific technologies and scientific entrepreneurship. Then they collaborated between the two sectors. There was a mechanism in place to negotiate the ideal collaborations and also to partner with the NSIUL wherever required. And I think this is a model which could actually be replicated by the other sectors as well. And in fact, that is precisely what I have been telling even the Department of Biotechnology, because that's another sector coming up very hugely, the bioeconomic sector. In fact, they have also set up a similar kind of a model, if I am of BIRAC. So I said you could actually emulate more closely what is being practiced by the space sector. And then of course the FDI approvals. And therefore, today, and the other contribution of the space sector in the recent years is that it has brought India as a first-line nation as far as our scientific achievements are concerned, our innovations are concerned. Because of these space achievements, we are being taken seriously even in other sectors. When we come out with a DNA vaccine for COVID, our trustworthiness is much, much more than it could have been a few years earlier, because we've already proved our credibility through our space achievements.